Hello. Well, as we explored earlier, this question of what is a justified hierarchy. Interesting topic. I think it's important to look at because does frame how I'd say humans naturally, in my opinion, naturally think about things like the family, and especially parent-to-child relationships. One of the most critical elements of this is that dependency, combined with, of course, the need for care and genuine concern. I think this makes it very hard to justify, in most cases, second guessing a parent for anything besides direct physical or sexual abuse. My own parents were probably imperfect a few times, but regardless, regardless of my parents' imperfections, I did not believe I was taken from my parents, and I do not believe it would have been appropriate to take me from them on that basis. As far as I can tell, the people who raised me, as far as I was aware, despite whatever strange comments I've heard in serving as a trustee, I assumed were my parents. And as largely as I can tell, despite some occasional extreme screaming, etc., I'm not sure if I'd ever say a threshold to take a child was reached there. I think that look at a lot of other, certainly news, media intensive events that happened over the past 20 years. The famous football player from the East Coast, I forget his name, that was very controversial. I question government intervention there. I also question the act. I don't think we should necessarily recommend using a switch on a young child, but it is questionable when you intervene in that kind of relationship. And I just wanted to, you might notice here, it is possible that we're trying to create our own version of Marxist revisionism right now. I don't know if that's what I'm trying to do. I mean, I certainly have read as a student, some of my favorite authors, the authors I read the most, had some sort of influence from an understanding of social class that is usually very Marxist. That doesn't mean my entire political platform or worldview is exclusively Marxist. As you can probably see here, there's definitely some conservatism seeping through, although not of the big business aligned variety or the three-legged stool kind of corporate conservatism, capitalist variety. You're not going to see that stuff leaking out here. But more ordinary kinds of conservatism, church, family, traditional understandings of the state, you're going to see that seeping through into me. Just that's what's going on here. That may contradict certain parts of Engels. That's always felt the whole family, property, and the state argument a little bit uncomfortable. Like, makes this perfect historical sense, but I think he misses the mark on human fulfillment. A family, I think especially for men, is actually a step up. That kind of deep connection with limited divorce, serious faithfulness in the relationship, that kind of family, that kind of marriage is, I think, actually does have some essential human dignity to it. But, so yeah, I think the family ties in pretty strongly towards this issue of hierarchies and justified hierarchies, which I've come to the conclusion are there. I think the anarchists have an interesting point, but I do not agree with that point of view. I'm not part of that. So, that's kind of where it goes. I think a justified hierarchy does exist in the parent-child relationship. It's fundamentally different from a lot of other relationships. Certainly it's not like the capitalist employer, capitalist state worker relationship. Very different. Certainly not, and should never be like any exploitative relationship. Obviously, when the government sees that's happening, that's probably when there's clear exploitation happening. That's probably when it's more clear that it's no longer a justified hierarchy, as one might say, or an inviolable sacred relationship. I apologize if I'm using the terminology in an odd way here. I mean, I'm kind of exploring this, partially influenced by seeing various exposures to anarchist thought while serving on a nonprofit board, or anarchist-esque thought. So, well, I hope this was a slightly boring update and follow-up to the previous video. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you enjoy thinking about it. I'm going to talk about this in discussion comments below. I think let's get some vigorous discussion going on here. Thank you.